Welcome back to the reality recap. I'm your host, Queen E, and we have made it to week 2 of Love Island All Stars. I hope you guys have been enjoying so far, both the show and the podcast. Definitely leave your comments down below on all your thoughts on the show because I have a lot and we're going to get into it. So we left off last week with Tina being introduced into the villa. As we know, India was not too happy about her connection with Scott, but she doesn't even have time to lament on that because we jump straight into a challenge. We are playing a game of, well, not we. I'm not playing the game. They're playing a game of suck and blow, and it's like a truth or dare. You know how the game goes. So the first dare is, the first is a truth, actually. And Gabby is asked who she would couple up with if she wasn't with Casey, and she picks Luca. I just want to know, like, what is it with these two guys that the girls are really after? Outside of age, Luca and Casey and a little bit of Ronnie have been like the hot commodities in the villa. But I'm just like, Luca? The guy who looks like he's under duress? I don't think he wants to be here. And then to make matters worse, he says that he fancies both Tina and Kaz. But Kaz is like, I like you, but you're not giving me any energy. Exactly. I'm not seeing this guy graph after any girls. I'm not seeing him like make them coffee in the morning, even just talk to them during the daytime. I'm just not seeing Luca put in any energy. We're going to get a little bit of insight on that, but still, Luca, if you don't want to be here, you could just go home. Like, it's okay. It's okay. Casey tells us more about his time in Antigua. He feels like they just had a night of passion and let bygones be bygones. However, Tina says what really pissed her off is the fact that he was seen leaving, I think it was a club, with 2 other women. Now, Casey, it is really hard to root for you when you continuously get caught in situations like this. He really likes to, well, let me not say what I was going to say, but he be out here. Casey, you be out here. Don't act like you don't understand where your reputation came from, sir, okay? Then we have Casey, who says that Kaz was a game player. Tina ranked her dates Naz, Luca, and Scott in first. So Naz was last place. And it seems like in the villa, Naz is going to be last place. And I can't be surprised. I think on his season, he only really had 2 connections. And even the first one with Demi was shaky. I don't know. I also think that Naz doesn't put in enough effort, similar to Luca. But we'll see what happens with Naz. Then we have India, who thinks that Scott is the most calculated, and he was so offended. And I'm thinking, okay, let's think in the context of what happened, right? She feels like she came in here with somebody who she had a long-term friendship with, and then once they start getting romantic and he has another person who he's interested in, he backs off of her. I can see how she would be like, well, what the hell was that about? But to say calculated, I don't know if I would say that word, but that's the word that was used, right? With Scott, he felt so disrespected, so much so that he said he's getting the ick. I said, oh, because, you know, one thing about an ick, you can't really come back from it. So I'm like, is it that deep that she said that? And also, who else do you think she was going to pick? Like, she easily could have picked one of the girls, but you know, sometimes if you pick one of the girls, it turns into a thing. She could have picked one of the guys. Maybe somebody like Casey, because he does seem calculated. But considering the recent events, I think that her picking Scott kind of made sense. He ends up talking to her after and he says, you know, like, basically he feels like his integrity was called into question. But then you also called her an ick. And I feel like that is a little disrespectful as well. And he's just like, well, I felt humiliated. And she's like, so did I. I can see both of their perspectives, but I will say, as this drama continued, I also was kind of getting the ick from India. I was just because she just kept harping on the situation of him trying to talk to Tina. And it's like, this is also Love Island, though. Like, that's supposed to happen. I know her last time around, she basically just had Ovi as her connection. I know Jordan wanted to talk to her, but she just had the one connection. And so this time around, it might be a little shell-shocking for her to see her connection want to pursue other people. But that's just the nature of the show, babes. You got to get with the program. Gabby questions her connection with Casey. She feels like if he has this reputation of being a ladies' man, what makes her different? Girl, nothing. Nothing. Casey is as Casey does, and he is not going to change anytime soon. Their connection does grow in this, like during this week, but to say that Casey's going to be a completely different person after this, I just don't see it. I'm already seeing similar patterns to the Casey we are very well aware of. And so I hope that Gabby protects herself a little bit. Not to say that you need to play games, because that's one thing I hate about this generation. Like, everybody wants to play games, play games, play. We're never gonna get married if we keep playing games, okay? But guard your heart. Make sure you're not investing too much too soon until Casey proves himself to be worth giving yourself to. You know what I mean? The girls feel like at this point Casey has gotten his player ways out of his system. Absolutely. No. He hasn't. What gives you the evidence that has happened? Y'all are all delusional. Be so for real. He is still a ladies' man if I've ever seen one. Kaz and Luca talk about him not showing her enough interest, and he's like, I don't know. You can definitely see that he just doesn't want to be here. And I'm not quite sure what it is. Like, if he was reached out to, did he apply? I assume he was reached out to. So if you come all the way over here and you have people who you're genuinely interested in, what's the holdup? We later learned that he's actually a little more emotional than he likes to present to be. We'll talk about that in a second. But as of right now, you have Kaz. I'm assuming there's an attraction. Show her that you're attracted to her, especially because we know that Kaz at this point, anybody who walks is her type. Let's just be honest. Luca, she likes you. You like her. Do something about it, please. In the morning, Scott and India talk about their situation again, and this time she does get a little bit emotional because he says that the trust between them has been broken. However, the connection is not over for him. But for her, I think when you factor in the fact that they were genuine friends coming into this, getting your feelings involved when you didn't want to cross that line from friendship to lovers, like it is a little bit more painful than just meeting somebody new. You don't have that history. You don't have that previous rapport. You also don't have that threat of, damn, our friendship is not going to be the same after this. So I can understand why she's getting emotional. She also doesn't have any more connections. I know at the beginning Curtis was interested in her, but he's now locked in with Ek and Sue. So I do feel for India, but I'm also like, from an entertainment standpoint, she's really not giving me much of anything. So I'm okay with her just slowly phasing out of the show. I'm okay with that, gonna be honest. Then we have Gabby, who said that she didn't expect to have feelings for Casey. She says that he went out of his way to reassure her. But if I'm remembering correctly, she's the one who brought up this whole conversation about jealousy when he was maybe talking to Tina and stuff like that, and she had asked him for a kiss on the terrace, and I'm thinking, did he reassure you or did you lead him into reassurance? Like, Gabby is creating this image of Casey that I feel like is not quite there yet. And so I want her to examine more, like take a step back and see if this man is doing what he says he's going to do for you. Is he actually pursuing you? Is he seeking you out during the day? Is he making you feel appreciated with a coffee in the morning, a fruit platter, a donut, something, anything? I don't think he's doing that. I think Gabby is pushing him in a certain direction, and she's like, oh my gosh, look what he did for me. No, you did that for yourself, but it's okay, girl. Ekin tells Tina that she brings out a better side of Scott than she has seen India bring out. And I think that with India, maybe she is trying to guard her heart, so that's why she and Scott just aren't really getting things going. But I can't say that Tina has done much of anything, to be honest. We even see them later connect, and she has to beg for cuddles. She has to ask for a kiss. And I'm just like, I don't know if Scott is naturally a slow burn or he's trying not to make it messy again the way he did with India. But I don't see this new side, this better side coming out of Scott. He's bland as bread, stale bread at that. So it's a Scott problem. Ekin, Birkin bag Sue. We have to bring back the nickname because she's really working for that Birkin. She's having a conversation with Liv because Liv is starting to think about her time with Luca back when they first got in the villa. And I'm assuming that they have some sort of history because they're acting like there's unfinished business. And I'm thinking, from the 20 minutes that y'all were coupled up at the beginning, it can't be that. It cannot be that. So she's talking to Ekin Sue, and Ekin's like, well, if you're getting some kind of vibe, you owe it to yourself to explore that. But Luca and Liv decided to already just settle things as friends. And I think that it was Luca who said that he wasn't even checking for Liv like that for real. So now that he's seemingly unavailable, Liv is interested. Liv, come close. Let me talk to you, girl. You need to stop going for emotionally unavailable men. Now, that's not to say that Marcel is the catch of the villa. I don't think so. But Marcel is showing her genuine interest. He's actually pursuing her. He's being forthright with his emotions, with his intention for her. But you're going to go for the guy who already friend-zoned you and is showing signs of not even wanting to be involved in this whole process. His current connection is struggling to connect with him. That's who you want to explore a connection with? Be so for real, girl. Move along. So Maya comes in, and every time Maya Jama walks into the villa, I'm thinking, there's a new bombshell guy. No, it's just the host. This girl is so fine. Maya Jama, you are one sexy woman, okay? And she tells Tina that she gets to couple up with somebody new. And Tina obviously picks Scott. Immediately, India is dumped. And for a split second, I was like, and then I was like, wait. I didn't even remember India's presence in the villa. Like, she can go. Respectfully, she can go. India, you are a gorgeous, gorgeous woman. I hope you find your person on the outside, but quite frankly, in the villa, you just weren't giving. So now that India's gone, we get 2 new bombshells. We have Ron from season 9 and Grace from season 11. I will say I do love Grace's energy. She's definitely a woman who bites back. She's not gonna let anybody walk all over her, but she's greedy. The girl is greedy. If she likes you, it doesn't matter who you're with. She's going to come for you. And I'm like, my girls are in trouble. Ooh, y'all better hold on to your man. Hide your kids, hide your wives, hide your man. Now that she's in the villa. So she immediately talks to Casey, Luca, and Naz. If I'm to compare the guys and maybe who she would connect the most with, I would definitely think Luca. Casey to me gives too much like messy energy. And I know that Grace, she likes a guy who has a little bit of fire in him, but messy, I don't think that's her vibe, especially just after dealing with Joey and all his messiness. I feel like she's put that to bed. Luca is a little bit of a better connection. He's a little calmer. He does have a slick mouth, but I think she's okay with that. She likes that banter. She likes that back and forth. And then with Naz, she says that she was surprised by her and Naz's connection. What connection? What connection? You would have the same amount of connection with a pineapple. Like, girl, the man isn't giving you any energy. Be so for real. But I like that she's keeping her options open. Then we have Ron, who talks to Kaz, Catherine, and Gabby. I think immediately Gabby is just, it's just not really there for them. But he is liking Kaz, and he is intrigued by the conversation with Catherine. Let's be honest. I think that Catherine would only draw a certain type of person. And I feel like right now her person isn't in there. So I was like, yay, Ron is talking to her, but is he interested? I don't quite know. He has a conversation with Elma that was so entertaining to me. He basically tells Elma, you are too invested in Ronnie. The reaction you had when Ronnie kissed Kaz was a little overboard and you need to cool it back. And initially I was like, oh, he's being messy. But he's also correct. I think something about Elma, like she loves hard and fast, which is fine if you're connected to anybody besides a Ronnie or a Casey. These are the type of guys who are not going to be loyal to you. They're not going to treat you the way that you want to be treated if you want a long-term partnership right now. Maybe down the line, they're going to grow and mature. But as of right now, they're here to play games. So I'm like, Elma, you better guard and protect your heart if you're trying to mess with Ronnie. So Ron was being messy by bringing that information to her, but he was absolutely correct. And we're going to see that manifest a little bit later. So then we see Tina and Scott really trying to like bridge the gap between, can I say friendship? I think they started off as friends. Bridge the gap between friends and lovers. And Tina's getting a little bit frustrated in bed. He doesn't really cuddle her and stuff. But then we hear from Scott that he's trying to do the right thing. He doesn't want to make things messy. He doesn't want to jump in too quickly because he just jumped in really quickly. And so eventually they start to cuddle and they start to kiss, which is good, but they immediately turn into the boring couple of the villa. Not necessarily bad when it comes to longevity. A lot of those boring couples, the first couple that comes to mind for me is Kai and Sanam. A lot of those boring couples end up standing the test of time. They're getting married. Have you guys seen on TikTok? They're getting married in August. I love. That's so cute. But yeah, they were boring, but now they're getting married. And so maybe Scott has finally found his person in Tina. Who knows? So during the recoupling, Maya had asked Luca how it's going. And he basically said at this point, he hasn't found his connection. And so after the fact, the girls are saying, why would he say that? Because number one, you're literally trying to be coupled up with Tina right now. But number two, what about the rest? What about the rest of us? So you're not into any of us. And he later on says that he's not going to apologize for not being into somebody, as you shouldn't. Don't ever feel like you got to like somebody just because they like you. No. But my thing is, you're definitely giving off a standoffish energy. And even if there was a potential connection with anyone, you just shut it down completely. And this was before Tina had even picked him. And I wonder how much of that back and forth made Tina's decision easier to just go for Scott, because I felt like she and Luca had something cute. I think she said that Luca flirts with her more than Scott does. And she likes that. She likes that kind of energy. And so I think Luca kind of shot himself in the foot. And so now that he wasn't picked by Tina, we see him get emotional. Basically, he's kind of overwhelmed with the process, and the whole villa is going and comforting him. And for a second, I questioned the authenticity of his tears. I'm going to be honest. I'm so sorry. I question the authenticity simply because when someone is genuinely in their emotions, they typically don't want to be observed by a whole bunch of people. So the fact that he was just crying in the middle of the villa and he's like, oh, thank you guys for support. Oh, I'm like, now how real are these tears? I don't know. But if I'm to believe that his tears are genuine, I think Luca's downfall is trying to play cool. Trying to be that player, trying to be suave, trying to pretend like, nothing really bothers him too much. Because I think it was, I don't remember which episode it was. He told Kaz that he was going to put in more interest. But then he took Tina to the loungers and he kisses her. And I'm thinking, okay, you're now upset that you weren't picked by Tina, but you were just playing around with both girls not too long ago. So do you want to have a genuine connection, or do you want to just play around? Whichever one you want to do, stand in it. If you want a genuine connection, you're going to have to open up. You can't have the funny boy persona all the time. The reason why the Ronnies and the Caseys of the show don't build these long-lasting connections is because they try to be the funny, cool guy. But here you are crying about not having a great connection, or whatever he could be crying about. It could be external stuff, we don't know. But if he is crying about not having a genuine connection, you're going to have to open up. So Olivia, if you recall, claimed that this time around, she's not going to be here for drama. She's going to be here for love. But she ends up having a conversation with Marcel. And he says that when Grace came in, he was super excited. And then he kind of pulled it back and he was like, well, he wasn't super excited, but you could just see like there was an interest there. So since Marcel walked back his statement, I didn't think there was a point for Liv to bring it up to anybody, but she goes and she tells Gabby, hey, by the way, he was really gassed to see Grace walk into the villa. And obviously Gabby is now on edge. And I'm thinking, Olivia, considering the context in which Marcel was telling you this information, I think it was messy of her to go and relay that. You guys can let me know if you think differently, because sometimes it's just you looking out for your girl. It's not you being messy. It's just being there for your friend. But I think considering the context that Marcel gave after he said his initial statement, it wasn't necessary for Olivia to spread that. But we know she's here for the drama. She could only hide it for so long. Let's be for real. They end up playing a game called It's Giving. And I was like, where is Whitney? Whitney's in a happy relationship. Yay. But I'm like, we know she brought that phrase into Love Island. She did not create it, but she made it a Love Island staple. But in the game, It's Giving. There are these sashes, and it's basically like the superlatives of the season so far. It got quite heated. So we have Heartbreaker. That went to Ronnie. Yeah. And the thing is, everybody knows this is Ronnie's reputation. So how girls keep falling for it, I don't know. Then we have jealous. That went to Elma. Yup. Ron came in saying what he said because Elma gets so jealous so quickly. And I'm just like, Elma, you don't even know this man. And the things that you do know about this man are not the best of things. If there's anybody to be jealous of, it's definitely not Ronnie. Then we have sexy, which goes to Ekin-Su. I would agree. Thirsty goes to Kaz. I felt so bad for Kaz because this was the beginning of a snowball effect. Would I say that Kaz is thirsty? I don't want to use the word thirsty, but she's definitely moving around in the villa. She's jumping from person to person, but then again, that's the nature of the show. So I think she's just doing what she was brought on here to do. Then we have bad communicator, which goes to Luca. I think he is suppressing his feelings, so that kind of makes sense. Next is vanilla vibes, and it goes to Scott. Who else would it go to? Oh, Nas. They are tied for the most vanilla islanders for me right now. So Scott is definitely a really good option. Fit AF went to Kaz. Loyal went to Curtis because he's pretty much locked in with Ekin-Su at this point. Salty went to Kaz. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, this girl is getting beat down. Self-absorbed went to Kaz. Passionate went to Curtis, which is going to be an issue because it was Gabby who gave that sash to Curtis. And so Casey was like, I'm with you. Any positive sash would have gone to you. Why wouldn't you give that to me? So that's going to be an issue a little bit later. Then clueless goes to Casey. Predictable goes to Ronnie. And extra goes to Elma. Lastly, friend zone goes to Luca. This game has to be one of the messier games that I've seen on Love Island because damn near everybody was pissed off, starting with Casey. Casey went to Gabby and, well, first he went to the boys and he was just like, why would she do that? I'm obviously trying to show her reassurance. I'm trying to give her the kind of experience that she wants and all these things. And so later on, Gabby does explain that she was kind of trying to protect herself. She didn't want to seem like she was too eager. And I understand that, but like I said, these games are going to keep us from getting married, y'all. Stop with the games. If you like the man, you can show that you like the man, but just be, just be cautious with how much you invest, how quickly. I kind of thought that his outrage was a little bit put on. I didn't think he was that upset, or maybe he does genuinely like Gabby and could see potential. It's just that the Casey that I know, he don't care. He doesn't need many reasons to move on to the next one. And I think he's starting to build a case against Gabby. That's just my hypothesis. Y'all can let me know if I'm tripping. If I'm playing devil's advocate, Gabby did say that she has trust issues. And so if you're pursuing somebody who has trust issues, it's kind of like, well, what's the point of me putting effort if you're always going to question me, if you're always going to second guess my intentions for you? So I can understand why Casey is annoyed if he genuinely likes Gabby. I just don't think he does. But maybe time will tell. Maybe time will tell. Kaz gets emotional because she's essentially like doing this process alone. I cannot imagine how hard it is to be in a villa where everybody but you is coupled up. I'm already fighting for my life on TikTok with all these, oh, we got engaged. Oh, we're getting married. Oh, come to my baby shower. It's enough. It's enough. I've had enough. Okay. So if I had to see it in person every single day, I think I would lose my shit. I would lose it. So I definitely empathize with Kaz. Seeing how people feel about you and it's a lot of negative stuff is never a good experience. I think that she has actually the most potential to come out with a great connection simply because her type is not rigid and she's quite open to explore with whoever she has a genuine vibe with. So it's going to be rough for now, but I think Kaz will be fine. Then we have Scott, who tells Luca that he's not playing things safe. He thinks that Luca chose him as vanilla because he's just young and he doesn't understand. He said, I have more to lose at 36 than you do right now at 25. Do you guys think age matters? Do you guys think that maturity is solely tied to age? I think sometimes that is true, but oftentimes it's just about what you've experienced in life. It's about what you're looking for at that time in your life. Now, is Luca on the same wavelength as Scott right now? No, I don't think so. But Scott Scott did not like the fact that his intentions in the villa were being like questioned. Like, no, I'm not trying to just play it safe. I'm just taking things slow, trying to build a genuine connection because I actually want to leave here with a real partnership. So I do understand where he's coming from. Elma is still pressed at Ron saying that she is putting too much energy into Ronnie. It actually became like a whole bust up. Like she said, you can't tell me what I'm supposed to do. You can't tell me how to feel. You can't tell me how to live my life. I said, oh, mama. But you know he's right though. I think sometimes when people get super defensive about something, it oftentimes is because you touched a nerve. You said something that was true that they didn't want to admit. So I'm thinking, Elma, you are aware that Ronnie might not be the person to fully invest in, and you've kind of gone a little bit too deep with him. There's even a moment, and I think it was like a Freudian slip, but there was a moment in bed where she said to Ronnie, love you. Oh, why would you say that? It might have been one of those like, oh, love you, babe. Oh, love you. You know, I say it too sometimes. But to Ronnie, you know, this man's head grew 10 sizes. He was like, yeah, I got her on lock. I was so frustrated for her. But anyways, Catherine is a bit pressed because Grace and Naz are starting to connect, and she feels like Naz isn't giving her enough energy. He's not pursuing her enough. I think the next day he ended up making her breakfast because Luca wanted to make breakfast for Kaz to show his interest. And so he hopped on in that. The thing is with Catherine, I do appreciate the valiant effort that she's putting in. Like, she's understanding that he's a slow burn. She definitely wants to take things at his pace. But you also got to realize too that if he wanted to, he would. I think that whenever people say slow burn, it's BS. I'm so sorry. Because those same people who are slow burns, when somebody comes in that they want to pursue, all of a sudden the slow burn is out the window. I felt like he had a lot more energy, a lot more enthusiasm talking to Grace in the 3 seconds that she's been here compared to the however many days he's been with Catherine. So yeah, the slow burn thing, I don't know if I buy it, but at least Catherine did put in a good effort. Eventually these two end up just snuffing the whole connection. And this is how you know he was never into her. Everything she said, he's just like, okay, you're right. Okay, the man didn't fight for a single second. I said, yeah, girl, he never liked you. And the thing is, I never thought that he really did. I just thought that Catherine also knew that this was simply just a villa vibe. Like, we're not progressing past the show. But her feelings got involved, and they do say sometimes your heart doesn't know that your head is dissociated. So I think she got a little caught up, and unfortunately, she got her feelings hurt slightly, but she's gonna bounce back. Don't worry about Catherine. She will be just fine. Luca and Liv end up having this like sexual tension type conversation, but it wasn't even a conversation because it was just their eyes. Y'all remember when I was talking about that triangle method? The eyes do a lot. Eyes talk. Don't underestimate eye contact. They weren't even saying much of anything, but the eye contact that they were having between each other made them think, oh, should we pursue something here? Eventually they decide like, no, it wouldn't even make sense. Like, we're not on that type of time. And I think like through the grapevine, Marcel caught wind that Liv could be looking in Luca's direction. And she had a great epiphany moment. I was happy for her. She said, I don't want to ruin a great connection over like curiosity. And I feel like we're susceptible to that a lot. You have something that you know is good, or at least it's seeming like it's good. So far, you haven't seen any red flags. You have nothing to really question about the person's intentions. But out of curiosity, we end up tarnishing the thing that we know is good for the thing that could potentially be bad. And I feel like she's seen enough of Luca to know that maybe risking the connection with Marcel isn't worth it. So thankfully, she just chose to stick with Marcel. But I wonder, like, why do we do that? Why do we go for the mysterious thing? Why do we go for the dangerous thing instead of the sure thing? I'm not even sure if I'm sure about Marcel, but based on the show, he's definitely a better candidate than Luca at this point. And I was like, girl, please, not Luca. But it was a mutual decision for them to end that situation. So that's great. Ronnie ended up having words with Ron because of what Ron said to Elma. I think that yes, Ron did come in with a little bit of a messy energy, but I don't think he was even saying anything bad about Ronnie. The way that I perceived what he was saying to Gabby was basically she needs to check herself and how quickly she's getting invested in anybody. I think he would have said that if she was kicking off after Scott or after Naz or after, like, I don't think the point of it being Ronnie was important. But for some reason, Ronnie took it personal. They, as guys do, I wish I had the conflict resolution of some men. As guys do, it was over in 3 seconds. And I said, wow, how beautiful. But yeah, the way that I perceived it was Ron was more so checking Elma than he was checking Ronnie. And also, he's a bombshell. He's supposed to come in and cause havoc. That's what they do. Elma is starting to have feelings that Ronnie is pulling away from her. I don't know if necessarily he was pulling away from her, but because she's so full on, I think he's realizing I could be setting myself up for some drama here. And Catherine gives some interesting insight. I didn't even think about it. Grace and Harriett on the outside are genuine friends. Like, they are besties. And so Grace now being in the villa, Ronnie is probably aware of his actions a little bit more. If he's trying to get back with Harriett on the outside, he doesn't want to have like rumors going on about him. I mean, the show was filmed. She's going to see it regardless. But I think for him, he's a little bit more cognizant of the way he moves in the villa because his ex's best friend is here watching him. That was some great insight from Catherine. It never would have crossed my mind. But either way, Elma's realizing this man is not reciprocating what I'm putting out there. That is your sign to take a beat. Just take a second and examine your relationship. Is this worth pursuing? Is it worth calling out? Is it worth cutting off? Elma, come on, girl. Like, this was her time to do that, but she didn't do that. Anyways, Curtis is starting to have concerns that he and Ekin-Su are moving just a little bit too quickly. And as soon as he has that internal conflict, they get sent on a date. It was with like alpacas and stuff. Can I share a weird irrational fear? I hate animals like this. I don't hate animals, but I'm scared. I'm scared of animals like this. Llamas, goats, sheep. I don't know what it is. It's so irrational and it's so stupid. I don't get it. With goats, it's their eyes. The little beady rectangle. It's so terrifying. My skin was crawling while they were on this date. Anyways, they have a conversation basically saying, I like you, you like me, I don't like anybody else, so let's just be locked off. So they're locked off from anyone else. They talk about the fact that she had been cheated on in all her previous relationships. I think she said she's been in 4 relationships. And if I'm not mistaken, I think they all cheated on her. And Curtis fixes his mouth to say, that's never going to happen. Curtis! The North remembers you cheated before. Now, that's not to say you can't be a changed man. Do you guys believe that once a cheater, always a cheater? I don't believe once a cheater, always a cheater, but I'm going to watch a cheater's actions because I don't think that just changes overnight. So when he was like, oh, that's never going to happen, I said, but it already has. So how much can I trust you? We're going to see Ekin-Su kind of look for issues when it comes to Curtis later on. And I'm thinking, if you're going to project your insecurities like this, you might cause trouble in a relationship. And don't get me wrong. Do not get me wrong. I'm not saying it would be her fault if he turned his head, but I could understand why he would. I'm not excusing people who cheat. I feel like that is an active decision. But sometimes there's a little bit of context to why people lose interest for you and gain interest for other people. I'm just being honest. So it's time for the recoupling. Ron decides to steal Kaz and Grace decides to steal Luca. And after that, they go onto the terrace. And Queenie be talking about kissing a lot. I just feel like there's a lost art when it comes to kissing. Okay, I'm sorry. I will die on this hill. We need to bring back the art of kissing. They go on this terrace, and what does Luca say to her? You're looking at me like you want to kiss me. It's all in the eyes. It's all in the eyes. You got to look that person in the eye and just transmit the message. Kiss me. Then we have Elma, who tells Ronnie that he doesn't pursue her enough. He doesn't come to her. He doesn't gravitate to her. And you know what his response is? Oh, it just takes me a minute to... Basically, he's saying I'm a slow burn. Again, the slow burn thing is BS. I'm so sorry. I personally believe this is BS. Because, and even Gabby and Casey talk about it, if the bombshell was actually into Ronnie, the way this man would have been on her like white on rice. He would have wasted no time. But because the bombshell wasn't checking for him, he kind of is now just like stuck with Elma. You will see when Ronnie is really into somebody, he makes it absolutely clear. And right now he's not being clear to Elma. Elma, that's all the information you need. That's all you need. You don't need to fight for something that just isn't there. Like Ronnie is not giving her even, you know what? Even if Ronnie was giving her energy, if she felt like what is being received is not how she receives love, because, you know, love languages and all that stuff. Like if she is not getting what she needs to feel valued in that relationship after expressing what she needs, that's enough to leave. That's my personal opinion. Y'all can let me know down in the comments below how you feel about that. So we get a little bit of tea from Grace. If you guys watched the last season, we know that Grace and Joey Essex are exes, and he came on the show, and when their connection didn't work out, he said, Grace still wants me. Grace still wants me. And we all, well, I don't know about y'all, but I was like, Grace don't want you, Joey. You're so self-absorbed. Like, oh my gosh, get over yourself. Come to find out, apparently Joey had reached out. They got together. It was a little bit flirty, and she says he will always have a soft spot in her heart. I said, Grace, I was fighting for you. Grace, I came to your defense being like, no, Joey is delusional. Joey is self-centered. Joey is lying on my girl Grace's name. Just for you to come and say you will always have a soft spot for him. That is the last time I feel like Tyra Banks. I was rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. How dare you? How dare you, Grace? How dare you? That was not the tea that I needed to be spilled today. Joey Essex, from the time that he played about her on the outside, he played about her in the villa. On the outside, he tried flirting with her again, and you still have feelings for him? I need these girls to stand up because the bar is in hell. So it's time for the public vote, and the bottom islanders are at risk. The bottom couples are at risk for getting dumped. We have Catherine and Naz who are in the bottom, along with Elma and Ronnie and Olivia and Marcel. If I'm going to run down who my bottom couples would be, it probably would be them along with Scott and Tina. But of the bottom couples, based on your guys' votes, it sucks for me to say this. It really pains me to say this, but I think that it was time for Naz and Catherine to go. I think it was, because Catherine respectfully is not being pursued by anybody, and she's kind of giving side character. And Naz, like I said, he's got the personality of a pineapple at this point. Like, them not being here really wouldn't impact the villa too much. With Elma and Ronnie, it would be good to keep Ronnie around because, of course, we could tell a certain somebody is about to come to the villa. Like, you have to keep Ronnie. And then with Marcel and Olivia, you have to keep Olivia, because if that certain somebody comes in, if you recall from the first episode, Olivia said, Ronnie was talking to me while he was with somebody else. But he's like, I wasn't even with her. We weren't in a relationship, like whatever. He really tried to downplay that whole situation. So it would have been strategic for the producers to keep Olivia and Marcel. However, they are the ones who are ultimately dumped. They talk about the connection that they've built. They feel like it's something they want to still pursue on the outside. I want to remind you, Olivia, that the man is still legally married technically. So I would personally wait until the ink dries before we save his number in your phone. It is time for 2 new bombshells to come in. I don't know about you guys. I'm personally obsessed with Wicked. Okay, so I'm going to illustrate my feelings of one of these bombshells through song. Yes, welcome to Queenie's theater class. So I see this sculpted chocolate man, no face, because you know, no face, no case. And immediately I was like, what is this feeling? So sudden and new. I was so intrigued. You know, if you've watched Wicked, you know that comes from a specific song. And you're thinking, wait, do Glinda and Elphaba like each other? I was like, wait, do I like this man? Who is this man? Who is this sculpted man? And then the camera pans up and it's freaking Montel from was it season 10? I was so pissed off, man. Come on. Immediately, I went into loathing, unadulterated loathing. I was so irritated. Get him off my screen immediately. But he comes in. Kaz is like, ooh, who's that? I like him. I'm not going to lie. Montel is cute. But if you recall Montel on season 10, I think it was season 10, whichever one had Ty and Ella and all of them, he was giving follower. It was definitely giving one of Ty's munchkins. And so I was like, Montel, you better have a backbone. You better have a mind of your own. Didn't Ty even tell him, go and kiss this girl? And he went and kissed her. Go and kiss this girl. And he went and kissed a follower. Absolute follower. That's not the energy I'm trying to see on this show. So he comes in, Kaz is interested, Catherine is interested, and he says this is his redemption for what happened between him and Kaz. He wanted to Catherine, sorry. He wanted to couple up with her, but she had just kissed Scott, I think it was, so he fell back. So we go straight into the kissing challenge. If you don't know how this game goes, you have the guys who are all lined up with masks and headphones on while the girls kiss them one by one and the guys give their rankings. Immediately, Ekin-Su was so pressed by the girls kissing Curtis. And I'm like, girl, that's how the game goes. Like, what do you mean? Like, that's how the game goes. Then we have Ekin-Su, who retaliates, and she's putting on a show for these men. She's grabbing heads, she's rubbing abs, she's hugging. I said, oh. And if I'm not mistaken, I think she got the highest scores. I said, you better work, girl. Personally, I think the most aesthetically pleasing, and I know we talk about kisses a lot on this podcast. Maybe I'm the problem. I think the most aesthetically pleasing kisses came from Catherine. Like, it was just giving sexy, sensual, but not too much. The guys did like Ekin-Su's though, because she really put her whole heart into it. I think the girl who got the worst scores was Elma. Ronnie is the only one who gave Elma a 10. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. You better make sure that your connection is not upset with you. But then in walks Harriett, and I must say, Harriett, the bundles are bundling. Your hair looks good, girl. You fine, mamacita. She looks so good. She walked in, she kissed all the guys, she gave them a show, and as soon as she kissed Ronnie, he knew immediately who that was. Why did this man give her a 10? I said, Ronnie, this is a messy game you're playing, because you're basically telling Elma, I still have feelings for this girl, and you're telling Harriett, like, hey, are you still intrigued? Like, a 10? And you just gave your woman a 10? I would be very mugged off if I was Elma. So after the kissing game, Harriett is talking to the girls and she says, I don't want to come in and beeline for Ronnie because I actually like other people in here. I want to see what those connections hold, you know? And it's actually Ronnie that ends up pulling Harriett for a conversation. And they both do admit that they weren't in a relationship. However, the feelings were deep. And this is where I get a little bit confused, because apparently Ronnie tried to ask Harriett to be his girlfriend 3 times. And all 3 times it sounds like she said like a definite no. But then he came in and he was like, oh, it wasn't that deep. It wasn't whatever. And then we find out that just in December, he had been sending her flowers and they didn't actually have a clear-cut breakup. And then boom, he's on the show. So did y'all apply together as a couple? I'm so confused by their whole situation. I really love the fact that Harriett is standing on business, at least for now, because Ronnie is there saying, it's you, it's always been you, I definitely want to see where things go, blah, 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 whatever. And the Harriett of 45 minutes ago, when she was on the last season, she would have immediately been like, oh, Ronnie, I take you back. Well, she probably would have cried first, but then she would have been like, oh, Ronnie, I take you back. But this time around, she's keeping him on the line. She's letting him marinate in his inner turmoil. And I said, oh, Harriett, I'm so proud of you. I like that she's not just folding at whatever he says, because she knows how he is now. She has seen it on film. She has seen it in person on the outside. Like, there's no need for her to give him everything he wants, because she knows he plays games. And I love the fact that she was just letting him sit in his misery for a little bit. While they're having their conversation on the terrace, Elma is eavesdropping in, and I said, Elma, girl, I don't know if this is the best decision, because we know you'll be upset when Ronnie is talking to other women. So she's listening, and he's basically like downplaying their connection, and she's a little bit frustrated, right? So they're trying to talk to Grace to see like where do Ronnie and Harriett stand. And it seems like there will always be like a little bit something there between them. Grace does corroborate that they weren't in a relationship. And so that seems to be like set in stone. But whether or not he saw them as a showmance or as like a situationship is a little bit like murky. The girls believe that Ronnie said showmance. I personally don't remember him saying showmance. I remember him downplaying the connection, but showmance, I can't say that I recall. But anyways, this ends up being a whole situation because Ronnie says that his initial feelings for Elma pale in comparison to his initial feelings for Harriett. And so that's why he's like, his head is a little scrambled right now. And I do understand that you want to have that immediate spark, but if you know you're not feeling it for Elma, let Elma know. That's the thing that frustrates me about some of these guys. Like, at least with Scott, he was pretty transparent. It didn't really pan out well for him because India didn't take the news well, but he was upfront to say, hey, I'm feeling a way about this person. I just want to let you know you guys are both still in the running, but I have to be transparent. My heart is split right now. With Ronnie, he knows he doesn't like Elma like that. But Elma right now is his only option. With Naz, he knew he didn't like Catherine like that. But Catherine was his only option. And then they wonder why these girls get so invested so quickly, because to them, they're thinking whatever interest you're showing is genuine, when really they're just a seat filler. So I wish that Ronnie was more transparent with Elma, just to say like, hey, let's take it easy, whatever. Or if he's seeing like, oh, this girl is falling a little bit too quick into me, pull back. Let the girl know, hey, listen, maybe we'll reconvene in a week or something, because right now you need to cool down. After the challenge, Curtis and Ekin-Su have a little bit of a back and forth. She didn't like the fact that he was kissing the women so passionately, and he didn't like the fact that she was feeling up the guys. He says, yes, a challenge is a challenge. However, when you're now using a lot of like physical contact, that's more than what the challenge calls for. I did understand him when he said that. Ekin-Su, I didn't understand as much, because I'm like, he's the one being kissed. Girl, what is he supposed to do? He wasn't filling up on the girl. So I think she was overdoing it. They end up having like a couple spat, and that night he decides to sleep outside. Ekin-Su is irritated by that because she feels like he's going to be the type of guy who, when they have arguments, he's going to want to go to his boy's house. And he does admit that if he feels very like hurt emotionally, he is going to take time to maybe go to his granddad's house or something like that. But it's not a matter of whenever they have an altercation, he's just going to leave. It's when he is truly hurt. And he tells Ekin-Su, like, I'm actually, like, that really did hurt my feelings, what you said about me. And I was thinking, Curtis really likes this girl. I know I've been noticing, like, okay, they have a good thing going, but I didn't think it was as deep as it was. Even when they said they were locked off, I was like, really? Okay, so he might like this girl. I would be remiss if I didn't mention Ekin-Su's past with Davide. I think that most of her previous relationships had been very toxic. I mean, they must be if they all cheated on her, right? And I remember her time with Davide on the show. Whenever they would have their arguments, it would always be a screaming match. And I feel like she's used to that. So when this is all a hypothesis. When Curtis was giving like a calm response, I think a part of her like was malfunctioning. She didn't really know how to process what was happening. So to see somebody react in a more mature way, he didn't cuss her out, he didn't yell, he took time to himself to gather his thoughts and then came and apologized later. I think a part of her was a little discombobulated, but sometimes when you're used to toxicity, you don't realize that you are bringing in toxicity when you're finally in a healthy relationship. I still have a little side eye on Curtis, but up until now, he hasn't proven to have ill intent when it comes to Ekin-Su. So I hope that she's able to check herself in the future. You don't need to find problems where there aren't any. I think a part of her is motivated by being the person who pushes storylines on the show. But if you really like Curtis, don't pick a fight with Curtis, please. Montel and Catherine catch up, and she says, I thought you had a kid. Now, I don't know how this rumor started. Apparently, his his sister had a kid or his sister got pregnant, and he posted like the pregnancy test, I think it was. And so it just started going around that Montel has a kid. I guess nobody wanted to corroborate the story. Like nobody wanted to say, hey, congratulations, Montel. So you could figure out if that's his kid or not. But he's like, no, I don't have a kid. That's my niece or nephew. And he basically says he wanted to pursue things with her. And now that they have a second chance, like maybe he'll be able to rewrite history, right? He also has his eyes on Kaz. Kaz was immediately taken by him. Like I get it, but if I'm to compare connection, even like age wise, what they're looking for in life, I think that Catherine and Montel make more sense. I really think they do. I think that based on the kind of guy that I was like depicting who would be great for Catherine, it might not be Montel, but based on like age, for instance, because I think Kaz is 29. Montel is a small boy, you know. Montel is a small boy. Catherine is like 24. It just makes more sense. And she's already intrigued. He's already intrigued. They have that history. I think that connection makes more sense, but that doesn't end up working out. We'll talk about that. Elma and Ronnie, they finally touch base, and he tells her that his head is scrambled, and she says, well, I heard you were trying to make Harriett your girlfriend, and you were giving flowers to her in December, but you told me you last spoke to her in November. Why did Ronnie get so pissed off? Ronnie was so irritated. He got up, he's storming across the villa. He's storming this way, and I said, oh. Clearly somebody has touched a nerve here. So Ronnie feels like, well, this is my impression of Ronnie's feelings. Because the women are saying like, you said it was a showmance, you said it wasn't anything serious or whatever, they are ruining his chances of getting back with Harriett. But he did downplay the relationship. It's on film. He downplayed their connection completely. But luckily for Elma, this whole show performance from Ronnie gave her clarity. And I'm like, girl, thank God. Because I don't know what it had to take for you to finally see that Ronnie was not into you like that. I think the next day he made coffee only for Harriett. And I'm like, girl, if you don't get it by now, then you truly are delusional. But no, she got the message. She was like, he doesn't like me like that. It's totally fine. I again cannot recall if Ronnie said the words showmance. And neither can Ekin-Su, because Eckenberg and Bag Sue, she's too funny. She's like, no, he did say showmance. I remember. And he's like, what? And she's like, yeah, I remember. It was during the red flag game. The game that you didn't even play. You weren't even in the villa, Ekin. I like when you push the storyline, but girl, the storyline has to make sense, mama. Come on. So finally, everybody is called to the fire pit, and it's time for the bombshells to pick who they want to steal. I was shocked to see that Harriett, well, no, I wasn't shocked about Harriett. Harriett decided to take Ron. Cool. Montel decided to pick Kaz. And I'm thinking, Montel, you came in basically saying, oh, this is my time to right my wrong from the past. I think they also had a conversation about wanting to be coupled up with somebody and finally like have that cuddle. And he was talking about how he acts when he's in a relationship and stuff. And it really was looking like he was going to go for Catherine. So for him to then go for Kaz and then in his speech say like, I've had my eyes on her for a long time. How long? You didn't even know the girl before. What? And then he also said, just because I picked this girl doesn't mean my options are closed with any other girl. No, they're closed with Catherine. They're closed now. To me, 2 strikes are out. I don't care. Catherine has been through a lot of mess when it comes to this freaking show, whether it's All Stars or her original season. No, I don't want anybody to just treat her like a second option. Absolutely not. She even gets upset. I think she was crying to, who was she crying to? I think it was Elma. And basically, she's just sharing about how hard of a time she's having. I totally get it. Montel, you better face your front. You chose Kaz, stick with Kaz. Finally, we have Ronnie. Ronnie is upset that Miss Harriett did not pick him. And I said, sucks to suck. And so he's like, it's only her. I don't even want Elma, whatever, right? So he goes and talks to Harriett. And again, I have to give Harriett my props. She didn't instantly fold the way that we're used to seeing her fold. And I'm like, wow, I don't know how much time has passed, like 6-7 months. She has grown so much. I'm so proud of Harriett, honestly. She was giving little sister in her season, and now she's still little sister, but she's grown up a little bit. I hope that if she wants to get back with Ronnie, she's going to need to see some evidence of changed behavior, because as of right now, I don't know if Ronnie is going to do right by her. He claims this is his second chance. He wants to right his wrongs. He wants to prove to her that he has love for her. Actually, I think he was kind of saying like to prove that I love you. And I was like, what? But I think what he meant was like, I have love for you. I'm going to have to see it to believe it. And how's he going to prove that? I'm going to need you to be like a monk. Any girl that comes in, you don't even look in their direction. You don't breathe in their direction. You don't make coffee for anybody else. You don't make fruit platters for anybody else. You don't talk to anybody on no terrace. You don't talk to anybody in no secret garden. I need to see him only look at Harriett and Harriett alone. Don't even look at my ajama. Don't even do it. That is the only way that I'll be like, you know what? Maybe he's a changed man. Because one thing about Ronnie, his eye, it wanders. So we'll see what decision Harriett makes. It's going to be Ronnie. Let's be honest. She's going to pick Ronnie. I feel for her, but it is what it is. I have to give her my MVP of the week. I'm really proud. I'm really proud of her growth. I think she's one of the only people who I've seen really approach this season differently. I know some people came in wanting to be different. I think Harriett so far is the one who has come in and learned from her previous experience. I think the best thing for her would maybe be to see what that connection is like with Ron. I'm not quite sure if there's longevity there between them, but give yourself a chance. There's new people who you've never met. You already know how it ends with Ronnie. Give yourself a chance. So you guys let me know if you think Harriett is gonna go back with Ronnie. She probably is. I can't even stand in it for too long because I know she's going to go back with Ronnie. But you guys let me know which dumpings took you by surprise this week, which Islander was your favorite, who you think is going to come in next. Because I think we need a guy to come and shake things up. I want a guy to bring in energy. We have Ekin-Su and a little bit of Grace, who's kind of like, they're kind of doing things in the villa, but I want a guy to come in and shake things up. Give Catherine a little bit of attention. Give Gabby a chance with somebody else. And somebody connect with Cass. That girl needs somebody. That's all that I have for you guys this week. Thank you for tuning in. I so appreciate it. Make sure to check in with the reality recap every Tuesday here, there, and everywhere. That's YouTube, SiriusXM, Spotify, anywhere where you watch podcasts. I will be there to break down Love Island All-Stars with you. Definitely leave a comment, give us a good rating, and I'll see you in the next one.